Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Defenders Live. I'm your host, Lora Thorson. Mark Lamb is the former sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, where he served from 2017 through the end of 2024, gaining national attention for his stance on border security, constitutional leadership, and his willingness to speak publicly on issues that many avoided. But he didn't start in law enforcement. He came from a business background. He went through failure and rebuilding and entered policing later in life, which shaped how he approached leadership from the beginning. During his time as a sheriff, he didn't just lead internally, he made law enforcement visible through national media, social platforms, and content that showed what the job actually looks like on the ground. He brought the public into conversations and situations that most agencies kept behind closed doors. Since stepping down, he's now running for Congress, continuing that mission at a different level. His story also includes significant personal loss, experiences that don't just shape a man privately, but inevitably show up in how he leads and what he stands for. Tonight, this show isn't just about his time in office. It's about the decisions, the pressure, and the seasons that formed him, and what we all can learn from that. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed, whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you find this show. If you don't want to miss another episode, head to defenders-live.com and become a free subscriber. That way, every new episode gets delivered straight to your inbox. And if you're looking for top-tier firearms and self-defense training, go to defenders-usa.com and check the calendar to see what's coming to your area this year. Let's welcome Sheriff Mark Lamb onto the show.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me.
That
was a great bio. Honestly, that was spot on.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But I thought, well, there might be a few little details that might not be exactly right. But I did my research on you. I thought the dates were correct on when you were sheriff.
So for your viewers, she was going to read the bio to me beforehand, said that AI helped her put it together. And I said, nah, let's do it live. Let's just do it and see what happens. And I'll tell you what, I probably ought to get a copy of that and use it for one of my bios. But yeah, ChatGPT knocked it out, or AI did a good job, whoever you use.
And, to be fair, I had to feed it a lot of things because there's a certain spin, I guess, I wanted to do on this interview, which is I don't really want to take the usual interview approach that a lot of people do with you, which is all political. And the reason for that is because I watched you on the Sean Ryan show. I could tell you were excited to do that show, by the way. Who wouldn't be, right? Plus, you got a SIG out of the deal. I mean, geez. I don't have much to offer you. If HK would, I'm a brand ambassador for HK. If they would offer you an HK, I would totally get you an HK. But so anyway, take it. Yeah, I figured you would. So that seemed like a good interview for you. It seemed like you enjoyed yourself. But the thing that I was most interested in you, it wasn't really so much the things you had to say, which many of the things I agree with. It was the authenticity that I felt when I watched that show. You were really honest about a lot of things, and I did write down some quotes that you said, which I thought were really interesting. But you pretty much just laid it out all on the line. It didn't feel like you were holding anything back. I didn't feel like you were being uber political, you know what I mean? Like self-censored about things. And that's what I find so refreshing about you. I mean, you've been in the public eye for so long now. One would think that you might start off a certain man, but then you, over the years, kind of turn into somebody different. But I don't see you doing that. What's been the key to that for you?
Look, I believe it's my faith, my family, my wife. We've been married for 32 years now. And so all these things keep you grounded. And then you have enough of life punching you in the face to make you realize you're not as special as somebody might think you are. So look, I always try to be authentic. I've done a lot of podcasts, and people will always tell me when they're done, they'll say, hey, if you want to change anything, we'll send it over to you. You can remove anything. And I said, look, not one time in all of the podcasts I've done hundreds of maybe 1,000 plus podcasts. I don't know. I've done a lot. maybe not 1,000, but I've done a lot. And I said, never once have I asked somebody to remove something from a podcast. I
Wow.
try to be authentic and honest. And, I think people can sense that I'm genuine as well, whether they agree with me or don't agree with me. It's the way you deliver it that I think pushes people away. So I've had a lot of people disagree with me on issues, political issues, but in the end, they recognize the authenticity. And so thank you for noticing it. It is something that I strive is to be authentic. I think the world is hungry for authentic people and especially authentic leadership. And I've tried to always be that, not just for my own life, my family, my wife, my children, but also for whoever I'm serving, whether it was sheriff or the agency, the people I served, or now hopefully Congress when we move forward. So I think authenticity is so important.
Yeah, and your son, Cade, exudes that as well. I've had him on the show. Same deal. I just felt like I could just sit down and have a coffee with him, and just shoot the breeze. And that's how I feel with you too. Even though I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, Mark Lamb, oh my gosh.
Don't be nervous.
Been on the Sean Ryan show and now been on Defenders Live. I got to say, that's a new level for me. Let's not lie about that. Really excited.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm just a normal person. I think your show is as important as the next person's show. I was, like you said, I was super excited to be on the Sean Ryan show. Sean Ryan is such a huge audience, and he's really one of the best interviewers I've ever sat down with. His authenticity, it really brings out the authenticity of the guest. He creates a very relaxed atmosphere. You don't feel pressured. You don't feel urgency to get what you want to say out. Everything is just really laid back and relaxed. And I found it to be probably not just because of who he is and the following he has. It frankly was one of the best interviews one of the most enjoyable interviews because he himself was such a good host.
Yeah. And the other thing about you too is you're not only very authentic, this is what I'm sensing about you, but you are really a good communicator. You're excellent at being at a community. I don't know if your wife would say that or not, but as far as a public facing leader, right? You're an exceptional communicator. And I'm wondering, is that something that you've always come by naturally, or is that something you've kind of had to hone over the years?
A little bit of both. My grandpa used to always say to me, he's like, Mark, you're the Pied Piper. People will naturally follow you. You just have this way about you. And then I wanted to be a public speaker early on in life, but I had no life to talk about. I had nothing that I could be, no expertise. And so I always tried to hone those skills in, obviously, over the last 8 years as sheriff and just the amount of media hits that we've done, the amount of podcasts and public speaking events, all of those things, they make you better and better, especially if you go back and you watch yourself and you realize, I could tweak this just a little bit, how I say this. But I will tell you, the authenticity, going back to that, is truly probably one of the things that I rely on the most. You can walk in front of a room, and if you're authentic about what you believe, and you're not trying to be political about it or say something you think they want to hear, it comes out as genuine, and you communicate it better because you're not trying to read from a script. You're talking from your heart, things that you truly believe in. And so I think those things have really kind of helped me be a better communicator. But a lot of it is just time behind a camera, constantly doing interviews, answering questions on the fly, studying your material, understanding the job that you have. So for me as a sheriff, I put a lot of effort into truly understanding border issues and law enforcement issues. So we spend a lot of time. I think you've got to be a master of your craft. And I'm a believer in, if you're going to do a job, become the master, become the best you can be at it.
Yeah. Have there ever been any things like maybe earlier in your career that caught you off guard? You got to know that feeling, Mark, where your face gets hot and you're like put on the spot and you're like, oh crap. Your brain kind of goes blank for a second. What do you do there? You just take a deep breath. I mean, in the moment, when everything's on the line, what do you do?
It doesn't happen a lot, but I know exactly the feeling you're talking about. It doesn't happen a lot because I try to be honest always. And so if you're honest, the worst you can look is stupid. At least you don't look like you're lying. That's worse.
Right.
I was in a court case. It was a big case. It was a RICO case, a federal RICO case we were putting together against a gang. And I was part of executing search warrants and taking the evidence. And we had taken scales and drugs and doors. We took the doors off of the hinges because they had gang graffiti on them. So there was a ton of evidence. And then by the time the case went to trial, I had already moved on to another agency. And so now I'm coming back and I'm testifying on this. And I tried to familiarize myself with the report as best I could. So the attorney's asking me, he's like, hey, is this the scale? Blah, 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 blah. He's showing me a picture. And frankly, my attorney should have sniffed this out and should have done a better job. But he didn't say anything. And unbeknownst to me, I was walking right into it. And the defense didn't know either. They weren't purposely walking me into this. And I could have lied and probably walked out of it, but that's not who I am. And so he hands me this picture and he says, yeah, is this the scale you're referring to? And I explained it. And then he hands me the evidence bag. And he says, can you open that evidence bag? And I open it up and I look in there and immediately it's not the scale I've been talking about on the stand. And he says, is that the scale you were just referring to? And it's just that moment your face turns hot and I'm looking down and I'm like, no, it is not. He's like, what? And I said, no, this is not the scale. And he says, well, you just testified that this was the scale. And I said, I did. And they said, so it's not the scale. And I said, no, it's not. And he's like, well, could you be wrong about all the other evidence? And I said, I don't believe so. I said, whatever it was, but I had to just truth my way through this thing. And you look, I told the attorney who walked in the other room, I go, hey man, what's up? You walked me right into that. It was actually my attorney that was the one that was asking me about the scale initially. I go, could you not have verified whether or not that was the right scale before you threw me out there, only to have him cross-examine me and make me look like a fool? Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't too pleased, but it was one of those situations where I bet you they would have never have asked to see the scale in the bag. Yeah. But to me, about being honest is really paramount. I think you can lay down at night and believe in who you are and what you stand for if you learn to just be honest. Jordan Peterson has a great quote, and I think I shared it on the Sean Ryan show. You have to have faith in the redeeming power of truth. A lot of things get very tough and complicated, and especially in this world where people want to just immediately attack you if you think different than them. You have to have faith in the redeeming power of truth. Totally. And it doesn't always end up the right way. I mean, people have been hung or killed or put in front of a firing squad for being truthful. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to keep you out of harm's way. But when you stand in front of your maker, you can say you were truthful.
Yeah, one of my really good friends who I really look up to says, always tell the microscopic truth. And so right now I'm not nervous in front of you, but when I first began, I was kind of nervous and I just said it, right? I just said the truth in the moment, which is like, I'm feeling this way right now. And then somehow that makes it go away, just by saying the truth out loud. And I think that's really interesting. And that's something that I've learned to practice in my life, not just in saying that to myself, telling myself the truth about things, because I can lie to myself about things all the time, but my spouse and other people. And so, yeah, it sounds like really small, like a small thing, but it's actually a really big thing. And isn't it kind of like how you do everything is how you do anything is how you do everything, or something like that? Telling the microscopic truth all the time to yourself and to other people is like, for me, the only way I can live my life and have my conscience always be clear, that I'm doing the right thing in every moment and I'm doing my best in every moment, regardless of how it turns out,
Yeah, that's all we can do.
We need more of that in this world.
We do. We just need, look, I've been in front of people before where I don't have the answers, and you wish you could say something, but you just have to say, I don't know. But I'll certainly find out for you. Yeah. Look, or when things aren't good, you're like, yeah, that's not good. That's right. That's not good. But I'll tell you what, we're going to fix it. There's a lot of different things you can do, but being truthful, I think, will save you a lot of trouble. Yeah. Where people get jammed up in politics and in media and all these places is when they try to soften the blow and they try to maybe not be quite as truthful as they should be, or maybe just outright lie. And then they just expect that it's going to go away. I mean, how many times do we now see politicians who are like, I'm not to go down the political road, but this
You
is just an
can go ahead.
example.
Yeah. There's no
Where
way we
this,
can't talk about beliefs and values and not talk about politics. It all flows the same direction.
let me give you an example. Chuck Schumer right now.
Oh,
So
man.
there's right now the Save America Act is something that 80% of Americans, black, white, Hispanic, Republicans, Democrats, 80% of Americans say, yes, you should have an ID to vote in this country. Chuck Schumer, back in 1996 and many years after, and so many of the other Democrats, same thing, said, yes, you should have an ID to vote. They were big proponents of it. But now they say otherwise, the complete opposite. I watched a video with Chuck Schumer the other day, and I don't know what was more appalling to me. It was from 1996. I don't know if I was more disgusted by the fact that he's been in politics since at least 1996 or before that. That's 30 years, folks. 30 years this guy's been in politics. That's ridiculous. And I said, and the other piece of it was he was sitting there talking about how important it was to have an ID. Why do I bring that example up? Not to be political, although I can get political if you want to, but because these folks pretend, they're so used to lying that they don't even pretend, they don't even care that you can go back and pull up an old video. They just pretend like they never said it. And it is, people get disgusted by that. That's why Congress has a 9% approval rating, because we're sick and tired of being lied to. And I think the average American says both parties have not served me well. And so I just don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that I want as a representative, somebody who speaks the truth, who does what they say, who doesn't try to use their office for gain.
I totally agree with you, but I got to ask you this question. Like, this is a dirty, dirty game, Mark. It's a dirty game. And you have been of service, it seems like, your whole life, but you didn't get into law enforcement service until later in life. You know, it could have been very easy for you to serve at the county level and do your job there and do it well and be like, okay, I did my public service, right? I'm good. And I did my part, so to speak. But no, you're just going to continue to push forward, you know? And I remember on the Sean Ryan show, you were talking about whenever you ran for sheriff, there was a part of you that was like, yeah, I really need to do this. You talked to your wife, but you said something like your business was going really well at the time. And you decided you weren't going to do it, but it just kept nagging at you. And you just couldn't let go of it for some reason. So you finally just decided to do it. And you were the complete underdog, right? And I mean, man, I got to tell you, I love an underdog story. I am a huge fan of the underdog, right? But in one of the most like dirty things you could be involved in, it's like, I am very appreciative and I respect you for your courage to do it. But it would be like, but why not after public service as a sheriff, just throw in the towel and be like, I did a good job. I'm just going to go and, you know, spend time with my family. I mean, this is a Congress. This is a big step, right?
Look, I'd be lying to you if I said that wasn't kind of the goal, my thought process. You know, You're right. Being in politics is not easy. As a career in law enforcement, you are constantly chasing monsters. Mm-hmm. It's different, but you're looking for the evil in this world. You're constantly going towards the fire, running towards the danger. Mm. Politics, in many ways, I see the same way. The average person doesn't want to do it, maybe doesn't feel competent enough or skilled enough to do it. Not that it takes a lot of skills to be in politics, but a lot of people it's not something they want to do. It's the same with law enforcement. Not everybody's a cop. Not everybody wants to run towards the danger.
Right.
I wanted to walk away from this. In the end, I couldn't walk away from the danger. I feel like I would have been less of a man if I would have stood there knowing I was capable of doing it and walking away and saying, I'm going to let somebody else run towards that building. I'm just going to stand here because it's more comfortable.
Now, when you say it like that now I get it. Now I get it.
And look, it comes with criticism. Aristotle says it best. The only way to avoid criticism in life is to do nothing, say nothing, or be nothing. Well, I refuse to not say anything. I refuse to not do anything about something if I think it's wrong. And I refuse to not be anything. I think we're sent here to this earth by God to be the best that we can be. I think most human beings will go back to their creator and realize they could have been 1,000 times better and accomplished 1,000 times more than they had. And I don't want to be in that position. When I get back there, I want the Lord to look at me and say, boy, you gave it hell. You were relentless. You just continued to push forward and you fought for what is good and right in this world. You were a good father. You were a good family man. I think that to me drives me more than anything, is knowing that when you finish, you get the well done, thou good and faithful servant. I don't want to be a guy who gets done and says, you should have done this, 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 and this. I promise you, as busy as I am, and I've had multiple busy times in my life, and every time I think there's no way I could be busier. And then I take on something more and then more. And I'm in another phase in my life where people say, how do you do everything you do? And I just say, I just do it. And I think God provides a way. The universe opens it up to where the paths become much clearer and much more proficient for you, to where you can accomplish more. But you've got to be willing to do it. I was just telling somebody today, and I'll end with this because I don't want to take up all the time. The parable of the talents from the scriptures, a lot of people think, oh, well, if you can sing and you don't sing, then you buried your talent. That's part of it. But the reality is God gives you stuff. The universe gives you stuff, whatever you believe in. For me, it's God, but let's say God, universe. They provide something for you, a job. And you got this good job. And what do? You do nothing more. You bury that talent. You work in that job for 20, 30 years, and you got this retirement. And you never really, truly challenge yourself and find out who you are or what you're made of. And that's burying your talents under the bushel. And people don't think of it that way. And so while you may be comfortable and you may have a good job, that's probably not what you're meant to do. If you're comfortable, it's time to get uncomfortable. And that is one thing that I've always done in life. I started getting comfortable after 8 years as a sheriff. Things started to become mundane for me. It became easy, and I wasn't content with that. And the border was the number one issue. And after losing my son and my daughter, my granddaughter, my daughter-in-law, we just realized that time is so precious that we weren't going to allow ourselves to miss any opportunities. And so we ran for Senate. I don't want to say I didn't win the election. I didn't fail. I wasn't unsuccessful because it parlayed me into a part of my life which I needed to be where I'm at now. And I'm sure what I'm doing now will put me at another level. But I wasn't afraid to move. And I wasn't afraid to give up what was good for what is great. And I think most people, when they hit what's good, they stop and they bury that talent, as opposed to just continuing to push and find out just exactly what you're made of. Will you fail? Yeah. Will you have hiccups and challenges? Absolutely. Trust me, the higher up the ladder you climb, the stronger the wind. But if you just keep on going, at a certain point, it's easier to just keep climbing to the top than it is to go back down.
Yeah, you don't really know me that well, but a lot of what you just said is very, the timing of it is very divinely inspired. I'll just tell you that. Do you feel like, well, I think I know this for myself. I'm just wondering if you feel the same way. I'm doing things and involved in things now in my life that I only could ever pray for, a decade ago. And I realize now that even though it's been a slow process, it's been exactly as it should have been for me to be prepared for the next thing. Do you see that in your own life as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I've gotten to a point in my life as I've gotten older and I've been through so much and I've really taken some chances and tried to do some big things. I feel like you see it even clearer. I'm sitting right here in this ranch in Tennessee right now. Our family goal was to buy a ranch and we're going to turn this place is awesome. It's got 7 cabins, which you can't see out the window, hotel slip with 6 rooms. This is a big event center. There's another one. It's got a bunch of acreage. We're going to have cattle. And what we're doing is we're bringing out here our family out. We're going to be doing YouTube about homesteading and ranching, and we're going to grow our own food, and we're going to teach our kids and our grandkids how to work. I bring that up because I had an offer on this ranch last year in August and September. And much to it hurt my heart, but in September, we felt like we needed to pull out of it. And we did. And then we thought, okay, since that didn't happen, we need to run for Congress. So I decided to run for Congress. And once I did, the universe just opened up. Yeah. And then in January, I got a call from the realtor saying, hey, by the way, that ranch is coming up for auction. So I come back out here in early February. I fly again. I put in the work. I fly from DC. We get here. We drive here. We get here just in time for the auction. And I win the auction, and the owner doesn't take the offer. And so back to the drawing board again.
Wow.
And in that time, I met some very key people that I needed to make this happen. And along that way, we just felt like the Lord said, look, what you had initially, and he's right, what I was doing initially was not the right way to do it. And it would have probably ended up being a disadvantage for my family. Now, fast forward now, I had to be a little patient. I had to go through some things. But here we are about to close on this property finally. And it's a much better deal. It's a much more manageable situation that we're in. And now my family is set up for much more success in this project, in this endeavor that we're taking on. It's not going to be easy. We're going to document it all so that you can see firsthand. Things don't always go. People think because of where I'm at, they are, oh, everything goes great for you. No, trust me. I get rolled up like as good as the next guy does. But I don't quit. And I don't look at anything negative in that sense. I look at it as God's doing something good in my life. So to answer your question in a long way, yes, I see it every day. The older I get and the more I'm not wise, but the more wisdom I do find, I find that if you trust in God and you're willing to take chances, trust me, the universe will open up. My wife always quotes a quote from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, where it says, like, I bargained with life for a penny and life would pay no more, only to find that when I laid down at night, had I asked, it would have paid more. You know, basically, what we ask of life, life will pay you. If you ask it very little, it will give you that. If you ask a lot, it will give you a lot. But there is a cost to it. And there is a cost not in a negative way or an evil way. It's a cost in a way that you've got to give in and let God do his work in your life. And I promise you, if you have faith and you just take those chances and you jump off that cliff and pray that chute opens, God has really great things in store for people. Most people will never find out what that is in this life. And that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. There are a lot of people going through a lot right now. I think especially since COVID, everything has changed so much. And I don't know. I just see a lot of people struggling, and I've had my own share of struggles. I think it's really interesting. I do want to get into stories about rebuilding, because I know that you have plenty of those to offer. But I also think it's interesting that you mentioned you're going to document everything, because that is something that I've been doing over the last 3 years. Is I've been taking people on a journey with me through, growth in all ways, personal development, physical fitness, spiritual fitness, emotional fitness, all the things I think a true defender really needs. I think most people think you just need a gun and you're good to go. And that's actually not true at all, that the most powerful weapon is what's between your ears. And I think being physically fit is important, being emotionally fit and spiritually fit is important. So I try to document my own journey through going with that. And there's people on the path, that are just a little bit behind me, and I can kind of like help them along and maybe shortcut some things that I learned the hard way. Right. And so, but it's a really hard thing sometimes to document the tough times. And I've kind of been careful about documenting some of the more hard times for me, the struggles that I've gone through. And I realized just this year that actually the most important thing I can do is to document the struggles. You know, it's harder for me to do because social media is such a convoluted place, right? And everyone just wants to share the good stuff. But I think in sharing the hard stuff, it lets other people know that, like, hey, this is life. This is how this is actually supposed to go. We're supposed to face trials. We're supposed to face hard things and get through them. And I went through something really hard pretty recently. And I made a monologue just about the last 6 months and what I've gone through and what the process was like for me. Not to say anything about me, but so that people could piggyback on what I had learned in that process, to know that there's hope, to know that you can come out the other side of this. This is how much faith you need, you know, to know that you're going to get through it, you know, and that was all that I had at some times. And so anyway, it's a really vulnerable thing to document everything in your life, but I hope that alongside all the wins, you also document the struggles as well, because I think that's what makes it more relatable, you know, for other people that are watching. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of watching influencers that seem like they got it all together, because we're all a mess, Mark. The truth is we're all a mess. Yeah.
We are.
If you've been listening to Defenders Live and something in you knows it's time to go deeper, not just in your training, but in your life, become a paid subscriber of Defenders Live. Each month we meet for a live group call, having real conversations about physical growth, emotional discipline, and spiritual strength. You'll be part of a growing community of people just like you, committed to becoming true defenders of life and of their families. This isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, doing the work, and not doing it alone. So go to defenders-live.com and become a paid subscriber and take your next step toward becoming the kind of defender this world desperately needs.
Sometimes I feel like I don't want to come off like that, but I've been through so much that honestly, I lost a child and a grandchild and a daughter-in-law. Frankly, everything else seems not important at that point. And so people may look at me and go, he never has hard times. No, I do. I am super optimistic that everything always works out. And so I just keep wiggling around and trying to find the path until you find it. And, you know, the beauty of showing these, I am too, I'm cognizant. I don't want, you know, look, I'm a sheriff, I carry a gun, I have business. I don't want to come off as weak. So, but there's a way that you can, I'm not worried about that because I don't cry. I don't complain about my situation. Mm-hmm. I just push forward. And I think people are going to see that when we showcase everything. And I can't speak for everybody in my family, but hopefully my children will learn and my grandchildren will learn through this process that that everything does work out. You have a good attitude. It may take time. It may hurt, but in the end, it will be what's best for you if you can hang in there. Mm-hmm. My wife always says, I am really good at staring down the barrel of the gun and not flinching. And
I believe that.
People may see that in this process, that we're really good at staring down the barrel of the gun and not flinching.
Yeah. One of the things you said on the Sean Ryan show that I wrote down, you said life is about challenging yourself and finding your greatness. And you said, look for opportunities to test your courage. Can you think of an opportunity in your life that tested your courage the most, or one of the standout moments?
Well, look, running for sheriff is one of those things. I mean, everything I read it was a terrible experience. Everything I didn't, you know, the natural part of me wanted to say no. And like you had mentioned earlier, I had made a decision. I told my wife, I was working in Utah, and I said, hey, I'm feeling like maybe this isn't the right time. That was me. That was what I was feeling. Then after the next 2 days, I could not shake the feeling. And in the end, I just felt like I need to do it. So I called her and I said, screw it. Let's do it. I'm more of that. If you get to where it just feels untenable, the situation feels untenable, then I just say, screw it. Let's do it. Let's go. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. We were very good at that at the sheriff's office, and my chiefs initially they struggled, but over time they realized, oh man, we just got to go and see, and it'll work out. It'll work out in some way. And if it doesn't work out the way you think it works out, you clean it up and you move to the next one. To run for Senate took courage. To run for Congress takes courage. To walk into a building or to walk into a house where somebody has a gun and a domestic violence is going on takes courage. These are all things, and you get conditioned to it. When we become in law enforcement, you become conditioned to courage. Courage is not deterred by danger or pain. It doesn't mean that you're not afraid. You're just not deterred by the danger that comes with that or the pain that might come with whatever you're dealing with. That's courage. And so most people in their life, unbeknownst to them, exhibit courage on a lot of times because they're doing things that they know are going to be painful and they know might be dangerous, but they do it anyway. And then there's a lot of people that don't.
Do, right?
Yeah, it's the right thing to do. And you've got to chase greatness in this life. I will tell you, I've taken a lot of dead bodies out of houses or off of crime scenes or accident scenes. They don't even leave with their wallet. They might leave with the clothes that they had on their back when it happened. Mm-hmm. But we take their wallet out because we need their ID and we're going to put it in evidence. You don't even take your wallet with you. Like there's nothing, everything you think you might lose in this life, none of it goes with you anyway. So why not chase greatness? If money is what you're looking for, you'll find it. That may not be what you want, but you'll find it and you'll realize it ain't that great. It does afford you the ability. But if you have money, you better be willing to do some other things with it to take you to the next level. If your greatness is to be, the head of an agency or whatever it be, any of those things are going to require courage. To get married nowadays requires courage. To have a family requires courage. Yeah. There's no guarantees things are going to go, work out. There's no guarantee you'll stay married. We've been blessed for stay for 32 years, but don't let that stop you from doing it. And then push through everything. My wife and I, we were successful because there was no out. We gave ourselves no emergency exit. We were going to make this work come hell or high water. And if you take that approach to most things, unless life is trying to tell you stop, you're going to only make it worse, but you'll know. You got to take chances. You got to chase greatness. And most people are going to die knowing that they never chase greatness, only to find out the only thing they take with them is what they did in this life.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever wish that you were in the military?
Yeah, it's the one thing. I'm not a regret person or regrets. Anybody who knows that movie, We're the Millers or Meet the Millers. No, I don't really have any regrets. One thing that I wished is I wish I would have been in the military.
Me too.
It was the one thing got away from me, and I actually tried to do it. By the time I got married pretty early. I was a missionary, came home from my mission at 21. By 22, I was married and already having kids. Wow. And so there was nothing going on during that time. After 9/11, I actually looked into it, and I was actually seriously considered it, but the problem was I couldn't make it work financially. And so I just kept going down the business road. I'm glad I didn't at that point because I got into the profession where I was supposed to be, which was police, and eventually I became the sheriff. And maybe I wouldn't have done that if I'd have joined the military. But I made sure that my boys, two of my boys, one was 82nd Airborne, Cade, who you know, and I have another one that just graduated from Airborne School and just got to Fort Bragg, and he now is part of 82nd Airborne as well. And I'm so proud of them and their willingness to serve. And like my oldest, never, he sees the value in what he did, and this one will also see it. So it is probably one of the only things that I wished I would have done.
Yep, I'm there with you too. I don't think they'd let you wear your cowboy hat, though.
No, I don't think so either. I had hair back then, too. So.
Oh, I see. Are you covering up your bald head? I know a lot of guys do that.
Like, I wear the hat because I think it epitomizes who I am. I think it's significant, or it says, sheriff. And also, I am bald, so it helps cover my head, in the sun in Arizona. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think it represents a piece of America that was tough and untamed, and that tamed and untamed land, that had values and honor, that had lived by a code. And I think we need more cowboy hats and belt buckles.
I agree with you, but I do want to say, coming from a ranching family and background, I can tell a real cowboy hat versus a fake one, and you're wearing a real one. Thank God. You have it shaped. It looks like you actually wear it. It didn't come from Walmart. So kudos to you for that. Because I know
this one here is a $1,500 beaver hat.
Okay.
Made by Watson's Hat Shop in Cave Creek, Arizona. And you're right. I've worn this. I can't wear it to really nice things because it's all dirty around it. But the beaver hat can obviously, if you know hats, can withstand a lot more of the climate, and it's a great hat. So
those who know, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I can see people's hats and I'm like, yeah, appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
But I get more compliments on my $200 Justin Bent Rail hat than I do on this hat. But I love it.
I just complimented you, though.
Yeah, thank you.
We have the same thing in the gun world too. I mean, you don't want to judge a book by its cover, right? I get that, but I mean, your gun kind of says something about you. It really does. How you wear it, what you wear, all the stuff. Do you have an optic? Don't you? What rifle do you use? Do you have a suppressor? Don't you? I mean, all the things. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's clothes, hats, guns, everything says something about the person, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
No denying that. Okay. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say. This is kind of a little bit going down a different lane here, but I remember during the Sean Ryan interview, one of the most touching parts of the interview was your story about meeting Jesus. You met a man, and I don't remember all the details, but the thing I wanted to tell you that I related to the most is that I saw Jesus in a man's face one time too. And it is something that I will never, it's seared into my memory and my heart as long as I live. And so when you shared that story, I just about lost it, because I'm sure it's not the first time that a human has experienced something like that. But you got to have, like, on some level, you got to be thinking, like, most people aren't going to understand this. But I just want to tell you, I totally understand it, because it happened to me too.
I am so glad you shared that. And you're right. It sears into you something. Mm-hmm. Like, I never questioned my faith at all. Never did really before, but certainly not after that experience. But what it did when I shared that on the Sean Ryan show, because like you said, if you tell this casually, people are like, oh, whatever, this guy thinks he's special, or he's just crazy. I felt impressed to tell that. And I had no intentions of it. When I left there, my wife goes, how did it go? And I go, well, I don't know. I told the story of the old man in Argentina, so we'll see how that goes. And she's one of the few people that knew that story. I don't even think my kids had heard me tell that story.
Wow.
And so, but that story was that's what people talk to me the most about from the Sean Ryan show. And like what you just shared with me, your own personal experience, I've had so many other people say, thank you for sharing that. I had something almost identical or similar. And this just really made me feel, like I can talk about it. So a lot of people feel like, whoa, did I really see or feel what I thought I saw or felt? Mm-hmm. And I think what it did was it gave people the courage to say, oh, this man was willing to share this on a national podcast in front of millions of people. Maybe I should share my faith a little more. And so when you tell me that story, it makes me feel good, because I'm glad I shared it, because so many people have felt the same thing and gone through a similar experience. And I think that It's really helps people help exercise their faith and their testimony.
And it takes courage to do that.
Yeah.
That's another kind of courage.
It does.
Is there any kind of courage you don't possess? Come on.
I hate snakes. I will not do anything with snakes. So courage goes out the window when snakes come on board.
You scream like a girl?
No, but I might run like as fast as I've ran in a long time.
In Arizona, are there a lot of rattlers down there?
So I'm going to tell you a story of a rat. So there's tons of snakes. In my first book, I wrote a chapter that says, I ain't scared, ... except of snakes.
Oh my gosh.
But I talk about in there about how most of our fears, we never actually realize they're unwarranted fears. For example, I walk in the desert all the time. I would do these desert border tours, show people around the desert. I'm out in the desert all the time for work, and I never see snakes, never. And so it was an unwarranted fear. In my lifetime, I might have only have seen a handful of snakes. And yet, for me, it drives fear. And I used it to sell people in my book that most of our fears are unwarranted. They're something we hardly ever even face, yet we let it dominate our decision making, or we let it dominate the path we would take because we're afraid of something. Anyway, I'm out there in the desert, and I'm with Sebastian Gorka, who now works in the Trump administration. He had a show on Newsmax and a few other things. So Sebastian Gorka's out there. We're showing him around, and I had told him, hey, be careful. There's snakes out here. This is snake season. But I'd never seen any. Well, sure enough, I almost took a step, and I was within a foot or two of a snake. And I popped back, and I had a short psionics rifle, and I had taken the flash suppressor off of it because I was waiting for my suppressor to come, but I didn't put the flash suppressor on it. So it's just like full loud, right?
Oh boy.
And I just pop back and pop, 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 and I shoot that snake. I didn't give any warning or anything. And all of our ears are just ringing. And they're like, what was it? And I said, it was a snake. They said, did you get it? And they're like, oh, yeah, you got it.
Oh, my God.
For the next year or 2 years, I would call and be like, hey, how's your hearing doing? It was loud. But, yeah, I hate snakes.
Oh, well, you're a pretty good shot then if you hit a snake. I mean, it was only, a few feet away, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, I don't think I hit it in the head, but I hit it. And but it made it back into its hole, but we hit it. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't blame you. I kind of feel the same way. So I want to wrap up tonight, I think, with a couple of things, because I think you're a good person to help educate the audience on these particular things. And I've shared these over, the last 4 years on episodes, but I always like the guest to be the one to say, especially guests with credentials like you. One of the things that I tell defenders of life that they need to understand, we talked about it earlier, that the gun is important, but not as important as training and having awareness of your situation, being able to avoid things going on before you ever get yourself involved in those things, I think is a really important thing. But also you talked about the importance of being your own first responder. And here in Montana, I'm in rural Montana. You mentioned the response time there in Pinal County was 3 to 5 minutes. I'm like, not here. It's more like 35 to 40 minutes. And as you said, a lot can happen in a short amount of time. And I don't think people really have a good understanding of how quickly something can happen to them. And so I was wondering, are there any things that you'd like to leave with the audience, things you wish the general population just knew in order to keep themselves safe in that regard?
Well, I'm a 100% defender and believer in the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, protect ourselves, our family. But even more than that, I always say, and I'm not afraid to say it, the Second Amendment was designed to protect ourselves, but also to protect us from another tyrannical government. Mm-hmm. if you're going to carry a gun, which I highly recommend you do, because the world is dangerous. I used to pull people over and go, do you have any weapons in the car? And they'd say, no. And I said, why not? You should. It's dangerous out there. And you should really have something to protect yourself. A gun is a great option. Don't be like these guys that got it like in some saggy holster hanging off their belt, which would take them 5 minutes to pull it out of there. But the number one, the problem is when you need a gun, police are not going to be there unless it's just by some stroke of miracle luck. They happen to be right down the street. Gun situations develop very fast, and within seconds, not minutes, you're going to probably need that gun, and you better know how to use it. You better be confident in your mag exchanges. These are simple things. You can do it in front of your TV. You can become proficient in these things. We used to always say in SWAT, you will not rise to the occasion. You will rise only to the highest level of your training. And so if you're going to carry a gun, I highly recommend make sure that you do get a little bit of training, spend a little time at the range, know your weapon. Because you're much more beneficial to everybody else if you are proficient in your firearm or your weapon. So that's the first thing. Number two is make sure that you have an insurance policy that if you are going to carry a gun every day, buy an insurance policy. And that's through there's these organizations, USCA, or UCCA or whatever. There's the Gun Owners of America has some. There's a lot of the different organizations have an insurance policy that you can get through them. What that will do is if you get into a shooting, you will get sued. 100% you'll get sued. And so you better be even if you were justified, you will have a lawsuit. You want to make sure that you have the means to defend yourself. And then that insurance policy will defend you. They don't cost a lot. You can get one for fairly cheap. But it is a must if you are carrying around a gun because you will get sued. Also, get an umbrella policy on your home. It's worth the extra $100, $200. I don't know what they cost a month. Depends on your level of liability and how dangerous a life you live. It's a lot more expensive for me being a sheriff. It's not as expensive for somebody. Make sure you have that as well. So an umbrella policy will cover you not just for a gun issue, but if somebody slips and falls into your pool and dies or any of those things, one of those lawsuits will crush you as a family. And so make sure that you're prepared on that end as well.
Yeah, those are really good tips. We promote firearms legal protection on our show, and I have a link, you guys, I can put in the description if you guys want to get a discount on that. I'm an affiliate.
Use Laura's, whoever Laura's using, use that one.
I like firearms legal protection, but read the details on what works for you, right? I think that is what you should do. Yep,
absolutely. And exercise it. Exercise the Second Amendment.
Yes, absolutely. We all believe. Well, I don't know if we all believe that are watching, but most of the people that watch me are of that mindset. I wanted to plug your YouTube channels for anyone that's looking to check out what Mark is doing on YouTube. You guys can.
Yeah, please support us. This is part of the way I support our family. At Real American Sheriff, we break down body cameras. I will take a body camera and then I break it down and kind of give you a little bit more insight as to what the police may be thinking. I kind of share some of my own frustrations as I watch the videos. But please go to at Real American Sheriff. And then my wife and I, occasionally I bring my son on as well. We do true crime on at Lamb Investigations. Would love to have your support on both of those channels. We like to have fun doing it. It's nothing political. It's just really just trying to give people a little bit more insight into the profession of law enforcement and making split-second decisions.
Yeah, all these things you know a lot about. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I wasn't aware of those channels at all. So I'm glad that you let me know about them. So make sure you go check out Mark there. So, you're off to a new chapter in life. A new ranch in Tennessee, so many new things happening. I wish you and your family all the best, Mark. You've been an absolute pleasure. So gracious with your time. I mean, I can't thank you enough. it's a big deal for me to have you on. I mean, for you to say yes is just really, I really appreciate it.
Well, it was my pleasure. And if anybody wants to keep an eye on the campaign for Congress, go to marklam.us. And this year, before I go to Congress, because I don't want to be accused of using my office for gain, which is part of the reason why, as a family, we decided to move forward with this project here at the ranch. But you're going to get a chance to see what it's like, that little piece of America that built America, farming, ranching, and just going through that, spending time around family, wholesome, hopefully, videos. But please just follow us, support us. You can donate on the campaign. You can donate no matter what state you live in. And my vote in Arizona, while I will be a congressman in Arizona, will affect Montana, Chicago, Illinois, Massachusetts, Florida. It affects any one of those just as much as their congressmen and women do. So would love to have your support. And we're going to try to take this country back.
Oh, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.